Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly review Empires of the Undergrowth. This is a game that you can currently find on Steam's Early Access program for about $30 or so, but the game is due to release on June 7th, 2024. My review embargo is finally lifted, so I'm allowed to actually share my thoughts. But before I do that, I want to show you folks around. This is mainly for the new people that have never seen or heard of this game before. I wanted to show you what was available in the different menus so that you can see what you're getting. Alright, so first of all, what is Empires of the Undergrowth? Well, it is a tactical ant game. I don't know if you are old enough to remember a game called Sim Ant. Sim Ant is a game that I loved to play on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I know, you kids don't know what a Super Nintendo is, I know. However, I'm old enough to have grown up in that era. In fact, I'm an Atari person myself, but now we're getting into dinosaur age. But anyway, Sim Ant, that was a game where you controlled the black ants and you were like the golden ant. You went around and tried to take out the red ants. And that was either through like a 6-mission campaign or it was via a sandbox. And that's what I grew up with, was Sim Ant. This game is as close to Sim Ant as I've ever found. There hasn't been a whole lot of Ant games out there. There's been Ant Queen, but I don't think Ant Queen can hold a candle to this because this is a lot more fleshed out. It's less buggy, that kind of thing. So there is a tutorial, there's a story mode, there's a custom game, and there's an arcade. As far as the arcade is concerned, you've got a battle arena where you can pit groups of creatures against each other. There are extra levels that you can play. Just look at all these different levels that you can play. These are just extra levels that you can play. They were introduced over the course of time. And they are like pre-scripted, pre-designed maps that you can play. They're kind of like challenge levels, I guess, that you can try out if you want to. And then there are demo levels that were, well, whenever the game was first being released and demos were available, these were available, these demo levels. So you can actually play the demo levels, which is really cool. So that's all the arcade stuff. And then you've got a custom game. And if you've ever played a real-time strategy game before, you'll be kind of familiar with a skirmish screen. Now, the skirmish tab and the free play tab, these lead to the same things. However, free play lets you customize anything, whereas skirmish is kind of like a quick match kind of button, kind of tab, where you pick a map. There's like, I don't know, 7 maps here, and then you pick your ant type. There's Gene Thief, black ant, wood ant, leaf cutter, fire ant, big-headed ant, little black ant, metabelly ants, and termites. There is a bullet ant coming in the 1.0 launch. I do not have access to yet in my current press build, but that is coming, and I believe you can access it by beating the entire campaign. I haven't gotten there yet. So you can, from here, choose your color, you can choose your team, you can choose your difficulty, and you can even customize it. You can decide how temperamental will the AI be. Are they going to be docile? Are they going to be aggressive? You know, you can choose their reaction speed. You can choose whether or not they cheat. I love it. This is something that more real-time strategy games need to do. You know, when I play games like Grey Goo, that was another RTS way back when. Petroglyph, I think, made that one. I felt like the AI was constantly cheating, and it was just really tough to beat them on skirmish modes. Well, I'm super glad to see that you can actually change how much they cheat. I think more games need to do this. But if you want to dive into specifics, that's where the free play tab is all about. And look at all these options. You can choose your environmental difficulty, what kind of creatures you'll be facing, in addition to the ants. Like there's spiders that roam around, and you know, tiger beetles and different things like that. Upkeep is something that was introduced, like, I don't want to say halfway through early access, but if you reach max population, the cost to build an ant gets exponentially more expensive. So like if an ant costs, I don't know, 10 food, and you've reached 100 population, it'll go like 12, then 15, and 20, then 25. So it gets more and more and more expensive. It's a way of controlling your max population count over the max population. I disable this because I like large colonies and I hate being penalized for stuff like that. So I disable that. Again, you can choose, there's uber creatures, which are super powerful. They flash colors whenever they appear. It's super cool. You can choose different victory conditions here. There's plenty to choose from, and I'm not going to go through all of them specifically. If you're going to get the game, you're going to go through all of that and look at it anyway. Here you can choose your level that you want to play as. There's a fog of war that you can turn on. Randomized caverns. Typically, the ant colonies start underground, and then you go to the surface and you go for food. And then you're trying to seek out the enemy colony, go into their underground area and take them out. And again, if you've played Sim Ant from way back when, that's going to be a familiar concept to you. This is where you can choose what creatures spawn. Again, these are like extra creatures that will spawn during the course of the map. They can give you food, which is kind of nice. Like if you kill them, they'll give you some food. That's been toned back a bit in the later early access patches, but typically they don't drop as much food anymore. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things that you can customize with the custom game. So if you want a skirmish mode or free play, that's the way to go. The story, I'll go ahead and load up my save here. Okay, so the Formicarium is like where your colony is going to be housed in between missions. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the quest screen or the mission screen here. You start at 1.1, then 1.2, then 2.1, then 2.2, then 3.1, then 3.2, then 4.1 and 4.2. And then there's 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. But in between, typically there's like a challenge, like to get from 1.2 to 2.1 or to get from 2.2 to 3.1, there's typically some kind of huge battle or crazy thing that you have to deal with. And that's where your Formicarium kind of comes into play. You're kind of building your own nest. This nest does not carry with you into your missions. Rather, this is like a persistent colony that you just build over time that may be used in those intermittent challenges. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to get too deeply into the mechanics because I've covered this game a lot, and I'd rather you just watch a couple of my videos to see the game in actual action. But typically, in the Formicarium here, your area between levels, you can grow your colony and you can also unlock adaptations for your ants. So if you want to make them, if you want to give them like special abilities, you can do that, like this little plus sign here. Gene Thief, Ant Worker, Nest Job Improvement. So I can spend a resource called Royal Jelly. You earn Royal Jelly simply by just doing missions. Which is kind of cool. You also earn food and the ability to dig out more areas in your Formicarium. But you're going to take this Royal Jelly and upgrade your Formicarium ants, which is really cool. So there's actually like a persistent progression kind of thing. And so yeah, this is a small little colony that you're going to be building over time. There is a surface. On the bottom left, there's the mini-map of the underground, and then there's a mini-map of the above ground. You can select different groups of ants. Like you can click and drag ants into different groups via this bottom bar here, and then you can have them go out and collect food, assuming that you've got enough food storage. Right now I've got 2,982 food out of a maximum 3,100. And of course, there are buildings, not buildings, but there are tiles that you can construct underground to improve how much food you can store. For example, there's a little empty tile here. I'll just go ahead and find the little food button under my build menu over here. And then there it is right there. And then click on that. Whenever you click on a tile that you want to build, anything that's similar to it will highlight. So for example, right now, this is my food area. Nothing's highlighted. But if I click the food button, now this is telling me, go ahead and build it next to these. And the reason why you want to do this is because there's adjacency bonuses. There's an upgrade button. And by upgrading tiles, and this is not only for food, but for your ant colonies, like you've got ants that you're putting down too. And by creating them together, you can create bonuses. So if I upgrade this one, this wood ant becomes a level 2. And if I upgrade that one becomes a level 2, and so on, so on. Same thing with food tiles. You can upgrade them in order to store more food. But the only way you can do that is to create some adjacency bonuses. So make sure that you're putting all like tiles next to each other in like a hexagonal honeycomb shape so that you can get these tiles to be able to be upgraded. And when you upgrade, of course, you're going to get better ants, you're going to get more food storage, and so on. So there's also footpaths, like you can put these little black footpaths down, and that just makes the ants move faster. But yeah, that's typically what you're doing with your Formicarium. You're taking what you earn from your quests, your missions, and you're going to come back here and just build. You've got like it'll say territory. That's how many spaces you can dig out right now. As you can see in the minimap, this is still huge. I could still build out a lot more if I want to, but there is a max population up here in the upper left. It says 300. I'm at 200 right now, so I'll probably expand a little bit more before I get into my final level, because I don't know what to expect. I haven't tried it yet. And I'm still under an embargo. I cannot show you that, so don't ask. I'm not allowed to show you that until the actual release of the game on June 7th. So anyway, that's what the Formicarium looks like. And I think now we'll just get into my thoughts about the game, and I'll just go ahead and play some, stuff in the background so you can kind of see what the game is like while I'm talking. Okay. So what you're watching is actually just footage from a more recent video that I recorded for you guys. You've probably seen it already. So as far as my review is concerned, I've got a lot to talk about. First of all, graphically, the game is fantastic. Again, this game has you digging out areas in your nest, and when you're putting down tiles, and everything just kind of comes to life in front of you. It's really fun to watch, whether you're underground or on the surface. Just watching creatures do battle, or just watching them go around doing things. Sometimes they don't have a whole lot of purpose. Sometimes just bugs will wander around and do their own thing without really having a purpose. Like spiders will just kind of patrol. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, I was hoping to see, maybe they're collecting food, or maybe they're hunting for something. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Just creatures will just kind of just randomly, robotically go back and forth between two waypoints until they do battle with something. So I was hoping to see, like, more purpose behind them, but still, it is what it is. It's fine. Sound-wise, everything's really fun. Like, the narrator is my favorite part. The narrator will kick in every now and again, talk about the different insects and the different creatures in this game. And it's just so, like, I feel like I'm watching the Discovery Channel when the narrator pops up and starts talking about stuff. It's really cool. And listening to the ants do battle and the death throes of the various creatures, and the insects and the ambient noises in the different levels, that's all good. So I'm really happy about that. And the game is very easy to get into. The hardest part really is understanding how the progression of the game should flow. Some people may be tempted to build the strongest ant. It's like 300 food or 200 food right away. And no, you should build some workers first so that you can get some food, get your economy going. But that's typical real-time strategy stuff. I mean, what StarCraft player only builds one or two workers and then just constantly builds, I don't know, Protoss battleships, whatever they're called. I'm just saying, like, you need a strong economy if you're going to fund a large army. So, that's common sense if you're used to playing games like this. But the flow is fairly easy to get into. And the trick really is understanding all of the different creature types that you're going to be exposed to in this game. And with someone, I have a really terrible memory. I don't remember half the stuff that I've come across and what their names are, to tell you the truth. And that's one thing I would just want to quickly just note, like, not complain about, but it's a pet peeve of mine. When you're in Skirmish and you're picking a creature type to play as, there's no, like, wiki description, or, like, there's no tooltip, mouse over tooltip description that tells you what they do or what their mechanics are. If you've played the leaf cutter, for example, they operate differently than a black ant colony. A black ant colony is pretty straightforward. Get food, bring it back, build a bigger nest, so on. The leaf cutters are a little different in the way they play. The termites, which are a new addition, they operate a little bit differently with their fungus and all that stuff. So it's like, I wish that there was a descriptor, a mouse over descriptor for these creature types when you're selecting them in the Skirmish drop down selection, if that makes any sense. I'd like a quick like creature guide on what I'm picking when I'm selecting things in Skirmish. So that would be cool. But getting back to the positives, there are lots of skirmish options, as you saw earlier, lots of different choices. And the arcade is huge. Like there's so many different levels that you can play as. There's a lot of replayability here. In addition to doing just the basic levels, I mean, there's a lot of levels, but skirmish will keep you busy. The arena will keep you busy if you just like throwing things out there and watching them do battle. And I think the bug lovers, like some of you folks out there, I think like this is your hobby, you know. And when the narrator comes on and starts talking about Formicali superalis or something, whatever, that's just a that's just babble. But you get the idea. Like he'll start talking about the actual names of the creatures, and as a bug lover, you're gonna, oh yeah, I know that name. So like I think you bug lovers will appreciate how in depth that this game will get sometimes. You know, they even go as far as to talk about aphids and things that you may not have heard of, the layman, but you bug lovers will probably know very well. Some of the things I didn't like, I already talked about the whole, skirmish not telling you what the creature types do right then and there. You just kind of have to know what they do. I think that's a problem. And one of the things that I'm not sure about, like when I'm selecting my skirmish sliders and adjusting difficulty, I can never tell if I'm creating a difficult map or not. In some other games, as you're adjusting sliders, it'll tell you you're making the game easier, you're making the game harder, you're making this. So, like, as you're adjusting things, it'll tell you what the expected difficulty is going to be. In this game, you just adjust stuff and hope that you've reached your difficulty sweet spot. And I have a feeling like I'm gonna have to play skirmish a lot in order to figure out what my preferred difficulty is. I'm one of those people that like it easy but not too easy. Like I like it between easy and medium. But I don't want a sandbox cheat code face roll. I want challenge, but I want a less of a challenge, if that makes any sense. And trying to adjust sliders to get that to happen, it takes a while because you can ramp difficulty with a slider, you can change difficulty in a number of ways. So it's like I wish it, as you were adjusting things, there was a universal difficulty notifier. Okay, I think that would have been very helpful. Also, there's no multiplayer. I'm sure the developers, it would take a while to implement something like that, but it's just disappointing that I can't play this with somebody else. It's just because it would be fun. I think it's disappointing. It's not a deal breaker, but it's just disappointing that there is no multiplayer. Another thing I don't like is that there's no like fast forward that I've seen. There are certain there are certain levels, and when you're in skirmish in the beginning, there are lulls in the action. Like there's nothing happening, and you'll be sitting there just twiddling your thumbs, waiting for daylight or waiting for this to happen. As an example, level 5.1 took me 45, 50 real-time minutes to beat, whereas level 5.2 can take 10, 15 minutes. So it's like the balance of the levels are a little weird. Like I found 5.2 to be too easy. It was so easy. But 5.1 on the same difficulty, on easy difficulty, it was still somewhat of a challenge. So I still feel like in certain aspects the game hasn't been fully balanced yet. It doesn't make sense why like level 5.1 would take 50 minutes to beat, but level 5.2 like 10, 15 minutes. If that, it's just so like I still feel like the developers have some work to do. But like I said, as of right now, the game is still technically early access, so maybe that's something they'll look into patching later or after launch. I'm not sure. But all in all, with the game being $30, like you're still getting a very good deal out of this. There's a lot to do, and like I said, we haven't had a good sim ant game in a very, very long time. For a while, Ant Queen was kind of entertaining, but for those of you that watched me play that game, if you've ever seen me try to grow my nest, there's a point where it gets so large that all of the ants freeze in place and start running in place, and it just breaks the game. Like, the game cannot handle a certain size of colony. This game is a lot more fleshed out. It looks nicer. It's just, and things are creepier too, like the bugs and stuff. So yeah, I do recommend this game. Again, there are a couple of things that irk me about it, but it does a lot more right than it does wrong, and for that reason, I would recommend it. Well, this is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I will catch y'all next time. Take care.